Hi students, and welcome to lesson 11, where we will divide decimals by whole numbers. Students will be able to divide decimals by whole numbers. All right, so in our last video, I showed you how to divide whole numbers, and I just showed you the basic steps for long division. Today we're going to look at dividing a decimal number by a whole number. Just to review, in a division problem, the number that gives you the total amount is your dividend. That's the number we're breaking up. The number of groups that we split that dividend into is called the divisor. And then how many are in each group? The answer in division is called the quotient. Let's look at our first problem. We are going to take 65 and 1/10 divided by 3. So we have 65 and 1/10 divided into 3 equal groups. To set up this problem, I'm going to use my house. 65 and 1/10 is my dividend, so that goes inside the house, just like if it was a whole number. And 3 is my divisor, so it goes on the outside of the house. Again, this follows the same rules as dividing with whole numbers. The only difference between dividing whole numbers and dividing a decimal by a whole number is what you do with the decimal point. Okay? As Mr. Abbott loves to say, raise the roof. What does that mean? That means that we take our decimal point that is in our dividend and we put it straight up top onto the roof. We raise the roof. Okay, so it goes right up top. Now that is what you do when you're dividing by a whole number. So if this is a whole number, that's all you have to do to get your answer. Okay, so we raise the roof. That should be your very first step. And now we can do the regular 4 steps of long division. So our first step of long division is to divide. Our second step is to multiply. Our third step is to subtract. And our fourth step is to bring down. So let's go through that cycle. How many 3s can we take out of 6? 3, 6. We can take 2 of them out. That's my division. So I put the 2 on top of the 6 because it's what I just worked with. Now I multiply what I just wrote. If I have 2 groups of 3, 2 times 3, that gives me 6. I put it underneath. Now I subtract. 6 minus 6 is 0. And then I bring down the next digit in my quotient, the 5. It goes right next to the difference from when I subtracted. So I just went through all 4 steps. I divided, multiplied, subtracted, and I brought down. Now we still have more division to do because we haven't used all of the numbers in our dividend. So let's go again with dividing. How many 3s can we take out of 5? How many groups of 3 can come out of 5? Remember the dot model that I showed you before? If that's helpful, you can use that. So here are 5 dots. How many groups of 3 can I take out? Only 1. So that goes above where I was just working. It matters where you line things up. I multiply the one I just wrote times 3 because I had 1 group of 3, and 1 times 3 is 3. Then I subtract. When I had 5 and I took out a 3, what's left? 2. And then I bring down my next digit. Bring down this 1. So I went through this cycle again. And now I have to go through another time because I can still take 3s out of this 21. How many 3s can I take out of 21? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. I can take 7 groups of 3 out of 21, and I put it above the digit I was just working with. Multiply that number you wrote times 3 is 21. Subtract 21 minus 21 is 0. I don't have anything left to bring down. I have no remainders, so I know my answer is finished. So when I take 65 and 1/10 and I divide it by 3, I get 21 and 7/10 as my quotient. Now remember, you can always check division with multiplication to make sure that your answer is correct. You could use an estimate if you wanted to see if your answer is going to be close to what you think it should be. And when you're done a problem, you can check with a calculator to see if it's right if you're not sure. Okay, let's look at another example that is going to be a little more complicated. Our next example is 20 and 4/10 divided by 8. So let's set that up. 20 and 4/10 divided by 8. Remember that your very first step is raise the roof, says Mr. Abbott. So we're going to take that decimal point, put it right on top on the roof. Now we can divide. First step, how many 8s can we take out of 2? Wait a minute. If I have a group of 2, can I take 8? Can I make a group of 8? I cannot. I like to put a little X to show that I could not take a group of 8 out of 2. So now I have to include the next digit and think of this as a 20. How many 8s can I take out of 20? If I count by 8s, 8, 16, 24. Wait, 24 is too many. I can take 2 groups of 8 out of 20. I put my 2 up top, and then I multiply. 2 groups of 8 gave me 16. And then I subtract. 20 minus 16 leaves me with 4. Remember, you would have borrowed here, but for me that was mental math, but make sure you borrow if you need to. Bring down your next digit. So I went through one cycle, but I'm not done because I can still take 8s out of 44. So we're back to dividing. How many groups of 8 can I take out of 44? 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. No, 48 is too many. So I can only take out 5 groups. That number goes on top above what you just brought down. Multiply. That same number you just wrote. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract. 44 minus 40 equals 4. Okay, so here's where it gets a little tricky. I can no longer pull groups of 8 out of 4. If I have 4, I cannot take a group of 8 out. So if this was a whole number, we would write remainder 4. However, this was already a decimal. So you cannot have a decimal value and a remainder. It's like having 2 decimal points in the same number. It doesn't make sense. So we cannot write remainder if we already have a decimal value. What we do instead is we want to extend our dividend. And we do that by annexing a 0. Remember that you can annex zeros at the very right of a decimal, and it doesn't change the value. So if I annex a 0 here, now I can bring that 0 down and continue dividing. So I write that 0 next to my 4. And now I can take groups of 8 out of 40. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. Oh, it's exactly 40. So I can pull 5 groups of 8 to get to 40. 5 times 8 is exactly 40. And when I subtract, I have nothing left. Now, what happens if we would have had a digit that wasn't 0 here? You would annex another 0 and bring it down. Okay, I've worked problems before where you have to keep adding zeros, and you get these really, really long decimals. Now, a lot of times, you'll just be told to round your answer instead of adding another 0 and another 0 and another 0. All right, so when we did 20 and 4/10 divided by 8, we get 2 and 55 hundredths as our quotient. All right, I hope you found this video helpful. Check back with me tomorrow for a little review on what we just did. Have a good rest of your day.